Most of the talk this week has been about Sam Howell, the offensive line, how to fix those things. We played the clips from Eric Bieniemy. He wasn't even aware that they'd been sacked 19 times. But another thing that people are starting to look at is the production from the receivers. Considered a strength of the team going in, when you look at where they are statistically right now, the leading guy in catches is Terry McLaurin. That makes sense. But he's at slightly above 4 catches a game. He has 13 catches on just 16 targets in 3 games. Meanwhile, how many times was Devontae Adams targeted in his last game? I believe it was 20.
I'd have to look it up. It was a lot.
You can check. But Terry McLaurin just 16 targets, 13 catches for 126 yards and 1 touchdown.
Devontae Adams in his 3 games this year has been targeted 9 times, 8 times, 20 times.
Think about that.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. But remember, just to counter it,
so that's basically 40 targets from one guy in 3 games, and Terry McLaurin has 16.
Right. I agree. He should be targeted more, but there is a balance. And if they were just, throwing the ball even more, you guys would be critical of him because you guys all want him to run the ball more too. Right,
yeah.
So it is a bit.
But
of a
you're not
conundrum.
getting it to your top playmakers enough. They're spreading it out. If you look at it,
and some people think that's a strength.
Logan Thomas has 6 catches. Antonio Gibson has 7. Cole Turner has 7. Curtis Samuel actually is the leading guy in terms of yards with 127 yards on 10 catches. Jahan Dotson, just 10 catches for 83 yards and no scores, whereas last year, I think he had 8 touchdowns in limited
7
play.
Or 8. Yeah, the lack of involvement from Dotson is the most alarming because it looked like his arrow was trending up. He was going to have more catches, more involvement in the offense, and whether it's faulty offensive play calling, just not in rhythm with Sam Howell, I don't know what it is, but
here's what some have suggested it is that because the offensive line and Sam are struggling as a unit, and taking so many sacks, DBs are playing press coverage, and then the guys aren't getting open.
Right.
They could just get up there, knock them off the ball, and then a second later your quarterback's sacked.
Yeah.
Or you can't. They're not getting open. They don't have time to develop their routes. Nobody's. Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but that's what's been thrown out there. And then when they are getting out there, they're all in each other's way, and the spacing isn't right. That screws things up. It sounds like the offense is a cluster. I tweeted yesterday, kind of tongue-in-cheek, and people are so anal that they take it literally, that, it looks like the 35-point performance was an outlier. I understand in 3 games, statistically, whatever. But the truth is, of the 3 games so far, 2 of the games have been less than stellar offensively in terms of production and points, and 1 game was great, albeit against a lesser opponent, but still, whatever. A lot of people picked Denver to beat us, but 1 out of 3 games we've been productive offensively. So if you were kind of like, everyone wants to grade Bieniemy or grade Howell, and everybody, we got a tea time thing for Rivera, we might want to have one for Bieniemy, because so far, as positive as the guy is, as much as he makes you want to run through a brick wall, and all the talk, the production from the offense, from Bieniemy's perspective, he had a great week 2. Week 1 sucked, and week 3 sucked.
But I don't know why are people surprised by it? Because as good as the
I'm
reputation of Bieniemy is, like, he's still working with a very green and inexperienced quarterback.
Yep.
Like, you have to expect bumps along the way for this offense. Like,
yeah, but then you scheme around it again. That's what always was my point.
But can you scheme around
a young quarterback? Of course you can.
That takes too many sacks?
Of course you can. You get rid of the ball quicker. The screens,
maybe
the play action.
Maybe
you run the ball.
Maybe
you
his
draw.
brain can't get rid of the ball quicker.
I don't think that's what it is.
It could be part of it.
I don't think it is.
He could be.
Here's what belies that: the fact that he's spreading the ball around to so many different guys.
Yeah, but did you see that? Did you see the graph that Neil Greenberg put out yesterday?
I did not.
I mean, it was just a simple stat. It was simple. It's if you go to Junks Radio, it's one of the last 5 or 6 tweets. Sorry, Dan Steinberg tweeted it. And it's just Sam Howell. It's titled Sam Howell has a sack problem. And it's got his numbers from 2019, 2020, 2021. Those are 3 college years. And then obviously this season. And on the left side, you see what his sack percentage is. And on the right side, you see the average. And just look at the graph.
I mean, maybe
my eyes are really bad, but
Sam Howell's just a slow processor of information, and hence holds onto the ball too long and eats sacks.
Well, it's a combination, but the overall point of the segment that the top 2 receivers for this team are tied for 62nd in the league in targets. That just has to go up. I'm not saying it has to go up where, Justin Jefferson is. You're not going to get there. But you have to get them more involved.
Unless they're dumb.
Yeah.
But do you think, how do you scheme around that particular issue if you're taking so many sacks and they're pressing you and your guys can't get open in 2 seconds?
Well, I watched McLaurin.
That's where the guy who's getting paid $3 million a year as an offensive coordinator needs to step up.
I watched McLaurin talk about
motion.
And Sam Howell also needs to step up.
Got to get these guys moving more.
Everybody needs to do their part.
Motion. Yeah. We have one guy moves 3 feet.
But back to the receiver point, McLaurin, that's like when Jonathan Allen comes on this show on Mondays, McLaurin will always hold himself accountable. And he says, here, the scheme is different than what we are accustomed to from last year. Talking about Bieniemy versus Scott Turner. He says, we're running different routes than we were last year. It's more predicated off of spacing. And maybe they're just not used to it. I know there was a clip that went viral this week where Travis Kelce catches a touchdown and he was supposed to run an out and he ran it in because he just does what he wants to do. But that might just be that offense, sometimes it's not so strict to run your exact route. It's to look at the defense, find where the open spaces are, and then Mahomes is going to get it to you.
Mahomes played with Kelce, and they have that.
I understand that.
For 10 years.
But what McLaurin, what I kind of get out of what McLaurin's saying, though, is, you may have had more, the routes were more precise. And here they want the spacing, which sometimes is predicated on the defense. What's the defense giving you? Then you got to find the open spots.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're not used to it.
They got to be better.
And they're ending up in the same spot.
Yeah. How about you don't wind up in the same spot? If I'm Eric Bieniemy, I'm going to go back to my plays and be like, well, I can't have 2 receivers within 3 or 4 yards of each other. It's just a bad concept.
I thought the Bieniemy hire was a great hire. Give them, no one has a better resume that hasn't been the guy yet, right? So great hire. Love the attention to detail. I love the fact that people were bitching that he was maybe too hard on him or whatever. I love all that. But I haven't seen the results of it yet.
No, the results are they're averaging more than 40 yards less per game so far. Now it's just 3 games. You have one 500-yard performance, and it changes the numbers.
I would also argue
right now they're averaging far less yards per game than they did last season.
Your results are always going to look worse when you leave Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce in that offense and come to a substandard offense here in Washington. Well, your results are always going to fail.
But you also have to realize Bieniemy is working with an inexperienced quarterback.
Right.
It's going to take time, not just for the quarterback, but for the OC. It's going to take time.
But the thought was that Howell would be better than Wentz and Heineke, and the offensive production would be better, that they have all these weapons. Right now, through 3 games, it's not better. It's actually worse.
Right, but I think we all understand 3 games, you can't assume it's over. Now, everyone's piling on with the college statistics. The thing when I would say something positive about college statistics, everyone said, oh, they don't matter. That's college. Now you guys are pointing to college statistics and saying they matter.
Because it's showing up in the pros. The exact same thing which was showing up in college is showing up in the pros.
My guess is in college it wasn't a huge point of emphasis because they were still pretty successful. And, they just, for whatever reason, it wasn't a huge point of emphasis. That's my guess. Because the only other alternative is that Sam is a dumb person. I don't believe he's dumb.
I don't think anybody thinks he's dumb.
Well, what else? It's dumb, and that he's too stupid to understand he's got to get rid of the ball in 3 seconds. I think he just hasn't been coached up well enough.
The game just moves so fast for you guys who aren't used to it. He's not dumb. This is what happens with young quarterbacks. We saw it with Trevor Lawrence, who was the #1 overall pick. I mean, I don't know why anybody's surprised.
I just retweeted it. It's Dan Steinberg chart. It's pretty simple. Sam Howell sack rate In college, 8%, average college, 6%. Then the next year it was 9% to 5%. The next year it was 12% compared to 6%. And so far in the pros, it's 16% compared to 7%.
All right, when I bring up a college stat in the future, I do not want to see it belittled. Okay? You guys bring up all
if
your
you
college
can tie
stats.
it into it's happening in the pros.
I always tie everything together. I'm
sure.
a brilliant arguer.
I'm not going to.
I've made a living arguing.
I'm not going to compare a college game.
All of us have.
When North Carolina's better
You've
than
made a living no different than any one of us.
College stats, throw them out the window. Throw them out the window. You can't compare Georgia Tech to Dallas or Philly or Buffalo.
We're playing like
Citadel. That should invalidate JP's point then.
What is?
I don't really pay attention to what college stats and then transitioning that to the NFL. I can't. I just can't do it.
Great.
You know what I mean?
Don't put any credence in what JP's saying. Then.
No, I'm just the eye test through 3 games as an NFL
starter. You don't
starter.
even need to look
My
at the
eye
stats.
test is pretty good.
Just look at the
He's
the
passing
bad
everything
stats.
except for one thing, which is the sack thing, which I think you can be coached out of.
What about the interceptions? Second
It's just
highest
part of the
interception
pressure. It's
rate.
just part of the pressure. I don't think that he's going to be an interception machine like Kirk Cousins. I don't. And Kirk Cousins.
He wishes he was Kirk Cousins.
How many does he have?
And Kirk Cousins learned his way out of it. We used
Some
to
guys are better
talk about Kirk
than others
Cousins
at that,
and
yes.
his turnover gene. As Jason said, it's a youthful thing. Maybe there's no question the speed of the game is bigger. But
Yes.
my eye test tells me a lot of great things. So
He has positive attributes.
a lot of positive attributes. There's one or two that's killing him right
But
now.
there could be a
for
fatal
sure.
flaw.
It could be.
He just has to get better. That's all. Just week by week.
He has
he's
to
got
improve.
And if they lose here, and let's say they lose to the Bears, there's going to be a little heat. If he doesn't perform well, what Barnwell points out is they do have Brissett. And I know there's no talk about it now, and I'm not saying make the move now, but if they go on a little bit of a losing streak and he continues to get sacked and throws picks and doesn't play well, they've got a guy who performed much better than what Sam Howell is performing this year, just last season.
There's a reason why he beat him out.
Mm-hmm.
In the preseason, they're not taking hits. In training camp, they're not taking hits.
I think they're
wearing
they
red
like
jerseys.
his skill set more than Brissett.
They do, but
Doesn't mean it was the right
if he keeps
decision.
throwing picks and keeps getting sacked at an alarming rate, they're going to run out of patience with it eventually.
Correct.
I agree.
So
Hey,
you better correct it soon.